Hey everyone, I hope you're well. Today we are doing a tier list like usual, but we're doing it a little bit different today. I'm going to sort of be going through all of the abilities and explaining each legend, as well as explaining where their tier is in competitive gameplay. Now the reason for this is quite simple. There's a lot of new people, so we're going to jump into it starting with C tier. Right at the bottom of the barrel, we have a Rampart. Rampart is a defensive legend with 3 different abilities that kind of give her a lot of extra firepower. Rampart's tactical is the majority of her kit. She has walls where she can place down a wall that'll build in a few seconds, and once it's built, you can shoot through here and do 20% extra damage, which is pretty incredible when you think about it. You know, it's pretty nice on paper, but the issue is, out in the open, movement just wins, right? Movement wins, you're going to get pushed. When you're just a sitting duck, you're going to come into some issues. But there are some opportunities for you to use this effectively, and I think with a good buff, Rampart could become dominant. But either way, the meta kind of leads towards high mobility, good positioning. Sitting yourself in a building never really works well. Obviously, there's other ways to play Rampart, but if we think of her core kit as a defensive legend, it definitely ranks her as a C tier. Now, not only are you sitting duck if you just sit behind your walls, but you're also a sitting duck if you use Rampart's ultimate, which literally, you just sit there, you're an easy target. You know, there's some little tricks you can do to try and make yourself harder to hit, but it's very hard to use this effectively. It's a very, very situational tool. Now, Rampart's passive, if you're an LMG player, you're going to like it. Right now, obviously, we have the Rampage and the Owl Star being pretty meta weapons, so it's pretty good for Rampart. She has more ammo capacity with every LMG, and on top of that, she gets faster reloads, and in the L-Star's case, faster overheat time, so it overheats quicker. So for example, if we get Loba here, we reload this, we get 40 bullets, but with a Rampart, we get 46, so it's a nice little upgrade. The reason why Rampart is low tier, like I said earlier, she has a kit that is very focused on defensive capabilities. Her passive doesn't really help the team. Sure, her tacticals can help the team at times. The increased damage can work well, but you need to be very, very hyper aware of how you use your walls, where you place them, and micromanage them to the point where you're losing focus on the core gameplay. You're losing focus on movement and aiming, which is always going to be the most important thing in Apex, to focus on placing your walls down, which makes her pretty low tier, in my opinion. I'm a Rampart main, so, you know, I got a lot of good things to say about her, but I have to admit that, you know, she's pretty low tier because of her kit being so sort of focused on, you just got to focus so hard on, like, what you're doing in game that takes away your attention from more important things. Wattson is another defensive legend in C tier. Now, Wattson's kit is, in my opinion, even worse than Rampart's. Wattson's tactical allows you to chain fences together. Each cooldown of the tactical, which you can have 4 at once kind of stacked up, will create 1 node. And when 2 nodes are connected, you'll create a fence. If you walk through it, or your teammate walks through it, it just turns off. And if an enemy walks through it, they'll be stunned slightly, they'll take a little bit of damage, and they'll be notified to you and your teammates. Now, you can get a maximum of 20 down at once, but you're not really going to be doing that in the middle of gameplay unless you have your ultimate, which is, in my opinion, the most important thing of Wattson's kit. The ultimate will block all incoming artillery, all grenades, almost all projectiles. Obviously, it doesn't stop bullets, but, you know, this is going to save you in a pinch. It's going to save you in a lot of situations. You can kind of plop it down and just, like, hide behind it as well and peek in and out of cover if people are pushing you. And it overcharges your shields pretty fast. If I take a grenade, for example, and I can showcase the overcharge feature. Now, this only can be placed for a limited time. You see these circles here? It's counting down. Now, here's my charging shields, sort of recharging over time. Wattson's passive allows her to carry 2 ult accelerants, and 1 ult accelerant will completely charge her ult, and her shields will recharge passively over time, no matter where she is in game, as long as she's not in combat. Now, it's quite slow, not as fast as Octane's stim. Overall, the reason why Wattson is in C tier is because she is a defensive legend that kind of relies entirely on her ultimate, and it's situational whether or not it's going to be useful or not. Sure, it's going to protect you from for some situations, it's going to allow you to lock down a building and all that, but with the way the game's going, focus on high mobility, high positioning. Like I said earlier, that's where the meta is going. That's going to be far more important. It's not necessarily like her abilities are bad per se, it's just they don't fit in with the current meta, and nobody's gonna really be needing to sit in a building for extended periods of time and just hold up, you know. It's not gonna work well, especially with like the prevalence of rev pushes. People can just rev-tane push through your fences, destroy them, they have no care in the world. They're not really gonna stand up to any major pushes like that. So Wattson's redeeming feature, though, is that she does have quite a good hitbox and animation set. And honestly, if it wasn't for that, I'd say she's probably D tier at this moment. But hopefully she'll get some future buffs. Now, up next is Mirage, also in C tier. Now, don't get me wrong. I do think that Mirage is perhaps underrated. And it kind of pains me to put him in C tier because I feel like a good Mirage player can absolutely dominate fights. I think a good Mirage player will be able to win almost all 1v1s, but Mirage's team play potential isn't quite good enough to really put him any higher. You'll notice as we go higher up this list, more and more legends have better team play potential, repositioning tools, healing tools, right? Mirage, that's not so much the case. So let's talk about his kit. Mirage is tactical. You can send out a decoy, and it will go basically walk in a straight line all of the way up to the point that you aimed. If you press the extra ability button, which is H on PC, it will follow your every move, right? So you can sort of like go up to a player and start, you know, let's say we're side by side like this. We can walk up to them. Players are going to have a hard time knowing it's you. And like I say, you can do some crazy tricks with the decoy to really throw people off and probably win most 1v1s if you commit to the lifestyle of a Mirage main. Like, there's a lot to learn. There's a lot of little tricks to learn, but you can get absolutely very good at him. Now, Mirage's ultimate allows you to go invisible for a very short time, and then a big plume of decoys come out that follow your every move. So you can really trick players here. Most players that know Mirage at this point will just shoot all the decoys until they hit you, but you usually have enough time to create some crazy confusion and at least get one player knocked down in the team, in some cases even more. So this can really turn fights in a lot of situations. Mirage's passive is actually kind of his redeeming feature, and it's kind of why, I don't know, like Mirage is kind of nearing B tier at this point. He can go invisible, like completely invisible, and revive people whilst invisible, and it's really hard to spot where a Mirage player is reviving. You can get some sneaky revives off like this. You can also respawn people when you go invisible as well. And you can throw down a decoy, and the decoy will do a fake revive whilst you're invisible. Now, this is quite neat. There's a couple other legends that allow you to get some pretty active revives in the middle of fights. Gibby and Lifeline are both examples. But with Seer's Interrupt, you know, and there's a lot of Seers around, and there probably will be for a while, especially in high tier play. You're not going to be able to get off these invisible heals so easily, because Seers can just use their tactical, cancel the heal, and you're going to be sitting there revealed out in the open, which is quite a shame, honestly. It is quite a shame. And like I say, Mirage is a bit selfish. That's literally his only team play potential. He doesn't really have any repositioning tools. Sure, you can throw down a decoy and try to distract people a little bit, but you got nothing to escape from. And I'm going to say this a lot, but repositioning and movement are so important in this game. Mirage has none of that. Next, we have Caustic, also in C tier. Now, Caustic got a buff. His gas traps now tick damage instead of just doing the same damage over and over. So you'll see that the damage is kind of like 5, 5, 6, 6, 7, 7, 8, 8, and it continues to stack indefinitely, which is quite nice, but obviously it only lasts a certain time. And I believe the second gas trap will only do 1 damage. It'll only do like a little extra damage here. Now, Caustic's ultimate allows him to throw a gas cloud down. And this is a pretty useful ability if you want to, you know, blanket an area. You know someone's hiding behind cover, they're healing. You know there's people in the buildings, they're healing and you want to push them. You can throw this down. They're going to get slowed a bit. Their vision's going to be kind of a bit blurry. They're going to take health damage over time. It's kind of annoying. Like, Caustic used to be really annoying, but they've turned down all the effects and stuff. It's easier to kind of move through gas now, so that's why he's low tier to me. I would still say that Caustic gas isn't really that difficult. Like, it's annoying to go against, but that's it. It's kind of like a fly buzzing around you, but that fly is not really going to hurt you that much unless you're on 10 health or something, you know? Caustic's passive is he just can see through the gas. Enemies are outlined in his gas, which I think is quite a bad passive, honestly. I feel like he could do with more there, and a lot of other legends, including even Fuse at this point, have these kind of abilities built in to their tactical or ultimate. So that is quite a shame. He takes reduced damage as well. As we can see here, he's fortified. So he gets a reduction of 15% damage, and he's not slowed by bullets. But honestly, this is sort of just like a patch me up attempt to try and like change the fact that he's so big, because he is. So that's an issue. Next, we move on to Bangalore. Now, Bangalore is what I would consider the most balanced legend in the game. She hasn't changed much for a long time, but I do think that she deserves to get some changes at this point, because the meta is evolving, new legends are coming out, and as more are added, her abilities are sort of like being left in the dust. And, you know, we'll talk about that in another video, I guess. But Bangalore's passive is a very simple smoke grenade. You can't really see what's on the other side. Sometimes you can. It's a mess. You know, it's great and all. But with Seer now in the game, with a ton of Bloodhounds going around, it kind of is going to get you killed a lot. I mean, you throw this smoke down, you think you're safe, and there's a Seer on the other side. You're not safe. You're not safe. You just aren't. I'd like to see changes where she could see through the smoke, maybe. Either way, for now, like I say, it's kind of been like the power of the smoke's been negated a bit because of that change. You know, it can be useful at times, but not with Seer looking at you 24/7. You know what I mean? Bangalore's ultimate allows you to throw a massive area of missiles, right? They land down, they hit the ground in sort of like a square, very slowly, and then they explode after a few seconds in a big, like, sort of blanket, right? This isn't really an ability to do damage. This is an ability to slow down player movement, stop them moving through your ult, and just try and, like, get yourself an escape so that you can escape, or maybe, like, deny enemies access to a certain area. For most skill levels, I'd say it works very well for that. It works well for repositioning. It works well for creating distractions so that you can go and res your team or something. You know, it works well. It works decent enough. But it's not the best repositioning tool in the game, and higher level players kind of know how to keep themselves safe in between the missiles. They can use movement, they can time it so that they jump, you know, grav lift in the air, grapple in the air, jump in the air as soon as the explosions go off, and keep moving. So, like, high skill level players kind of don't really care too much about a Bangalore ult, in my opinion. If you do get hit by a Bangalore ult, though, you'll take 40 damage, and your vision will be blurred for a long time. So that is one of the benefits. So it's a pretty decent ability when it works. Bangalore's passive is she actually moves faster when she's getting shot at for a short period of time. Think of it like an automatic Octane stim that doesn't take any health. It's pretty decent. It's pretty decent. It's going to allow you to get some pretty good escapes and repositioning. And, you know, pair her sort of a little bit of mobility, her ability to use smokes to sort of just conceal her location a bit so that she can escape and reposition, and her ultimate as sort of an overall repositioning tool. And she has a kit that's simple to use, but good enough for you to be able to, you know, have some control of a battle when you really need to. When you really need to get out of a situation. When you really need to res your teammates. When you really need to stop a push. Like, the abilities work somewhat well. Not as well as other legends, but somewhat well. And that's why she is in B tier. Next, we have Fuse. Fuse now has quite a few buffs to talk about. First, let's quickly go over his abilities. Fuse's tactical throws down a knuckle cluster that will deal damage and sort of like slow and disorientate people a tiny bit over a quite long period of time. The period of time has doubled since Season 9, right? Now, for whatever reason, if a player decides to just sit in this tactical, it does a lot more damage. It does about 100 damage, I think, in total. Which is kind of crazy. Like, let's say there's a bunch of people in a room, and you just fire 2 of these, and they've got nowhere to run. Like, that's going to cause a lot of carnage and destruction. Now, Fuse's tactical allows him to carry nades in 2 stacks. So he can carry 2 nades per inventory slot, which is quite good. You can also throw them faster and further, which for arc stars is really great because it's going to allow you to get some pretty crazy sticks that would otherwise be a little bit more difficult. You can also throw normal nades super far, which can have its benefits sometimes. Same as thermites, like it's a pretty good ability. And you can now turn it off as well. Fuse's ultimate, he basically gets a mortar out and he fires it onto the ground, creating a ring of fire. Now, what's quite interesting about this change in Season 10 is that it now highlights players in or around the ring. That means you're going to be able to kind of get a little bit more info on where players are, and it has helped me to win some games. Like, it is quite a big change. And overall, like that, compared with his new knuckle cluster, it's just, it kind of propels Fuse up a bit, you know? You can't use your tactical whilst firing like you can with Revenant and Bangalore, which, you know, kind of makes sense because it does more damage than both those abilities, but it does mean that you have to decide whether to shoot or use your tactical, so that's why Fuse is B. Next, we have Loba. Now, to me, Loba is actually a really fun legend to play and really beneficial for, I'd say, a lot of skill levels. Like, if you're, you know, I don't know what Apex Predators would say about Loba being in Predator rank, but I would say all the way up to, like, at least Diamond. She's decent. She's decent. Loba's ultimate allows you to place down an item that you can loot from. Everyone that accesses your ultimate can take 2 items from it in the nearby area, right? As you can see, it has sort of like a radius. And infinite ammo in the area. No matter how much ammo is here, you can take it, as well as your 2 items, whatever they may be. Loba's passive allows her to see purple tier and above loot through walls. As we can see here, she can see it through walls. So she can know what's in a care package before she gets there. She can know what's inside of loot bins. She can know if there's any reason to stop in an area and get loot. So it can really speed up looting. Loba's tactical is a bracelet, so she has a bit of movement on top of her looting capabilities. You throw it in the air, it travels through the air, and then once it lands, you teleport, right? It's been buffed a little bit because it used to be pretty bad. Right now it's in quite a good state. You can use it to get out of situations. You know, let's say a player is pushing you, right? You got hardly any health, and you're here, they're pushing you, and you're like, okay, I'm going to just throw it over there and rotate around this rock as they push me and try and damage me. I go hide in a corner and heal. Really good escape tool. For her, personally, it's sort of like a selfish movement ability. And you can also use it to be aggressive as well. You can throw it as a player is trying to escape once you've lowered their health and kind of take them down. So it's a pretty decent ability. Like, I think it's pretty good. You're not going to get as fast movement as you would with a grapple or a jump pad. That's the only downside. It's quite a slow movement ability because you got to throw it and wait for it to travel through the air. But, you know, she's not really a core movement legend. She's a looting legend. And I would say that she's a pretty decent one at that. The only downside is, you know, at this point, every other legend above her is just that much better. They provide more value to the team, whether it's through repositioning, recon knowledge, ability to, like, res players or whatnot, you know, so we're going to move on to the next legends. Next, we have Crypto. Crypto, to me, is B+. Crypto could be, you know, receiving a lot of improvements, I think. I think it deserves a lot of improvements. But in the right hands, Crypto can be quite a menace. Crypto's tactical allows him to take control of a drone and scan the area. Now, this drone can do quite a lot more than just scan the area. Right? It can highlight enemies for your team. It can look at banners and know if there are any players in the radius. It can pick up your players' banners from their dead boxes and even respawn them. It can't revive players, but can do almost everything else. And on top of that, the drone can use Crypto's ultimate. Crypto can't use his ultimate himself. The drone has to use it. And it's a massive EMP blast that will stun players and do 50 shield health to everyone in the radius, including yourself. Luckily, not your teammates, but including yourself. And this can allow you to create some pretty crazy pushes off of. It's going to allow you to, you know, third party a fight, get some damage off, and just go absolutely wild with a push, right? Like a well-timed Crypto ult alongside a Revenant push is going to be absolutely devastating. And I feel like there is some space for Crypto in the meta. Even with Seer currently in the meta, like Crypto's unique ultimate is something that kind of keeps him afloat a little bit. The only downside is that all of Crypto's abilities, you have to use the drone. Like, when you're not using the drone, what can you do? Nothing. You can't do anything. Crypto is without any kind of ability to help the team without his drone. And the fact that you have to give up your own player control to use the drone means that you need to be able to communicate with your team perfectly and make sure that you're not sitting in your drone too much or like not paying attention enough. Like you need to be like saying to your team, hey, I'm going to create an EMP push, or I'm going to scout this area to find if there's enemies. Let me know if you need me back there to sort of cover anything, right? That's like a big issue of crypto. I'd say if you can't communicate well with your team, then other Recon Legends are so much better. And we'll see later in this list exactly why. Next up, we have Lifeline. Now, Lifeline is, you know, she's gone through a lot of changes. I think that right now she's in an okay state. She's not exactly the best healing legend in the game, but she's okay, right? She's okay. Lifeline can now auto-res teammates by just tapping E on them, and Lifeline's drone will come out and start to revive them automatically. If you have the gold shield passive will also apply, and that res can also be done with both teammates at once. So you can have both drones reviving a teammate whilst you sort of defend them and shoot against whoever's pushing you, which is quite a nice change. But the only downside is it doesn't have the revive shield anymore. It doesn't have the revive shield. So you need to basically hope that your team can crawl to cover before they're killed by enemies and then res them. If you res them out in the open, they're just going to die, right? And if you're a bad Lifeline player or you're new to Lifeline and you just start resing your teammates out in the open, you're going to get them killed. That's something really important that all players need to realize. Lifeline's ultimate is a care package, and if you throw this down, it's going to give you an upgrade to some of your attachments and your gear, right? So like, let's say a 1-tier upgrade to that, all the way up to gold. But the trouble is, it's a very long cooldown on this ultimate. It's probably going to be beneficial for you to like get like a backpack upgrade or an armor upgrade later in the game, or early, sort of like in the mid tier. You know, if a teammate has no purple armor yet, that's kind of like the only use for the ultimate. But the only downside is it's like a real care package. Like people are going to know where you are as soon as you place that down. And, you know, besides that like one time of using it, it's not really going to provide much other benefit, honestly. Lifeline's tactical is a healing drone. It allows you to stand by and take sort of like fast healing. And we'll see here that it's actually pretty fast now. Like it's almost like the same speed as a syringe, I think. So you can like pop a shield bat. Lifeline can get players up in the battle straight away. And there aren't really any other legends that can do that so effectively. And to me, that's kind of why Lifeline is B+, because the rest of her kit isn't necessarily that good. She does have enough of passive where she can open blue supply bins on the map. There's like a secret compartment that will usually contain extra meds or some attachments, which, you know, can kind of be beneficial every now and again, but it's kind of just like an extra thing they added to try and give more power to her because she lost a lot of power in a recent rework. So, you know, she's B+, she can do well, she can like get her teammate up, but they're going to be pretty vulnerable, you know. Nades can come flying down, people can push. If they get an angle on that player once they're rezzing, if they're not completely in cover, they're going to die. Like, it's not good enough to put her any higher in this list. Now we're moving on to A-tier legends, starting with Pathfinder. Now, Pathfinder, in my opinion, still has one of the best movement abilities in the game. If you're good with the grapple, you can go so far. You can do some crazy things. There's such a high skill ceiling on the grapple to the point where, like, you're basically able to do some incredible stuff. There's so many guides and tutorials online. I'm not a very good Pathfinder player. Like, I only really know the basics. But that in itself allows you to truly master, like, pushing players, repositioning, escaping dangerous situations. Pathfinder's survivability, based just on his tactical alone, is massive. Practice with this, go watch some YouTube guides, and you're going to be really doing well with Pathfinder. And I'd say Pathfinder's repositioning is still better than a jump pad in most cases. Now, the only downside is it's only for Pathfinder. It's a selfish ability. It's only for Pathfinder, which means, you know, other legends with other abilities like Octane are ranked higher because only Pathfinder can use it. Now, Pathfinder does have a team-based movement ability. It's a zipline. And in some cases, it can be useful. In most cases, it's better for pushing a fight instead of trying to escape because once you do go faster, you literally just go in a straight line, and you can only bounce on it 3 times before you fall off. So it's not as good as it used to be. It's kind of just like a quick repositioning tool that kind of makes you vulnerable if you don't know what you're doing with it. So definitely, you know, like I say, the jump pad's a lot better, and that's why Pathfinder's only A. And there's another thing to talk about. Pathfinder's passive, all it does is reduces his cooldown when he accesses a survey beacon. Now let's talk about survey beacons real quick. Survey beacons are super important in ranked because you want to know where the next ring is so you can position there early so that, you know, you can set up properly, you make sure that you're rotating properly, you're not going to get into a massive third-party fight or fall into any bottlenecks late into the game. That's a super important ability. But that used to be Pathfinder's unique passive, but they gave it to all recons, including Bloodhound, Crypto, Seer, and Valkyrie, and yeah, all recon legends. So Pathfinder's only passive is literally that when he scans a recon survey beacon, the cooldown of his zipline is reduced. It's not good. He needs a new passive, and I think that it's a little bit of a shame. That's another thing that I forgot to mention about Crypto as well, is that his passive is literally that his drone can scan people. His passive is that his drone can scan people. Like I said, with other legends, that's just part of their tactical. It should just be part of his tactical, and Crypto should have a unique passive. And that's kind of like that, you know, they've got a couple good abilities, but they're not super great, and then they have a really bad passive, both Pathfinder and Crypto, and that's why they're not ranked higher. Next, we have a Valkyrie. Valkyrie launched pretty balanced. I would say that she's just a little bit higher than sort of like middle of the range. That's why I've put her A tier. Her tactical fires a blanket of missiles that can sort of stun and damage players a little bit. It's pretty effective. If you fly up in the air, then it's going to allow you to have more distance on that tactical. It's going to allow you to slow players. It's going to allow you to secure kills. It's going to allow you to like fire upon people who are trying to hide behind cover and heal. So many good opportunities for you to use it. It's pretty decent tactical, right? Valkyrie's passive is she literally has a jetpack. Now, it has limited fuel, and unlike a lot of other movement abilities in the game, when you're in the air, like, your momentum is really slow, and you're going to be easy to hit, right? So, you're not just going to be able to fly up in the air and shoot people, right? Another thing is you can't even equip your weapon whilst you're jetpacking. So, really, it's kind of useful for, like, quick repositions. Let's say there's a player chasing you, and you want to just quickly, like, get up on here, right? You want to quickly, you know, reposition like this or whatever. It gives you a lot of freedom to reposition quickly, and that provides you a little bit of survivability, right? You're not going to be able to escape as quickly and as far as Pathfinder's grapple, but it's more readily available. It's more readily available, which means you're probably going to be able to stay in a fight for quite a long time, as long as people aren't super determined to chase you down. In that case, they might just have a better chance of doing that against you than they would Pathfinder. But Valkyrie actually has that as her passive. This is her passive, right? We already talked about her tactical, and her ultimate allows her to fly through the air with her teammates attached optionally and reposition just like a balloon, right? And that's super useful for quick repositioning into the ring, repositioning when you're getting pushed down. Just kind of like, it's so good. It's such a good repositioning tool because it allows you to move very far. There aren't really any other legends that have such far, like, distance for any kind of movement ability. And that's why she's A tier. Like, this repositioning tool is massively good. Sure, people are going to know you're coming down, but in most cases, unless, like, things are getting really sweaty late game, it's just a free repositioning tool. A free jump tower, basically, right? Valkyrie can also see enemies highlighted on the map. And in her UI when she's flying with her ult off of a jump tower or from the dropship. So that's a really good way to know exactly where players are and whether you want a hot drop or like land safe. Like, you're going to be able to do it much more efficiently with Valkyrie because you know exactly where everyone is. So pretty decent. I'd say Valkyrie's pretty competitive, pretty decent mobility legend with some good repositioning tools. Next, we have Revenant, who is in A tier as well. Revenant is super core for the meta right now. Revenant's ultimate push, alongside Octane's jump pad, allows you to just get a free push on players, and it is absolutely just the meta and rank right now, and it has been for way too long. But without Octane, like, it's not a thing. It's just not a thing. you're not going to be able to travel quickly enough to be able to do a efficient push in most cases. So, you know, that's why Revenant on his own is just A tier at this point. Pretty decent, but not amazing. Now, let's talk quickly about his abilities. So, obviously, Ultimate allows you to create a totem. When you access this totem, you'll go into a shadow mode, and you'll have a limited time to basically get a free push on players. You'll have 100 pure health, so when players shoot you, it'll do damage to your pure health, and then you will teleport back to the totem. The totem can be destroyed, and in that case, you will just go back to normal human form. You won't teleport to the totem, and the timer will run out, as you can see in the bottom right now. And once it runs out, once again, you'll be going back to human form. Now, this can be countered in some ways, because there's now a new sound effect that plays when you're sort of about to run out of the timer, the death totem timer. So people can kind of time you out and then fight you and push you. But overall, it's still just such a super great, aggressive, free push on squads. It's going to be such a good third-party tool alongside Seer, Octane, and Revenant. Would just be a disgusting combo in ranked. So, yeah. He basically propels two very strong legends even further because of his ultimate. Now, Revenant's tactical throws like an orb. It does 10 damage and will silence players for quite a significant time. I'm not sure the exact time. I think it's like 10 seconds or something. They can't use their abilities. A lot of legends can't even use their passives. So it kind of like really does slow things down. You're going to be able to stop people from escaping. You're going to be able to stop people from using their tactical on Wraith, their tactical on Pathfinder, stop them using their ultimate. It's quite useful, and it is going to allow you to secure more kills and potentially win fights with it. It's also like an eyesore. Like, you can't really see through it very well. So in some cases, you can use it to hide behind. Like, I've had moments where I've literally hid inside it and healed, and players are shooting right beside me, and they had no idea. So that's pretty cool. Revenant's passive is quite unique. He can crouch walk faster. He crouch walks the same speed as he strafes, right? So basically, you can do this and be really hard to hit, which can be quite useful at times, especially because he's quite a big boy. And Revenant's other sort of part of his passive is that he can climb walls faster and higher. Now, they buffed it recently. You can now climb pretty significant like distances upwards, which is going to allow you to create some quite unique flanks and pushes. Like, as a unique selfish movement ability, it's quite fun. Is it better than a jetpack? No. Is it better than a grapple? No. But it's quieter in most cases, and it's going to allow you to get some sneaky kills for sure. Next, we have Horizon. Now, Horizon, in my opinion, is A tier. She got a little bit of a buff so that her grav lift, like, speed is faster and she can strafe a little bit better. It's not as good as it was in Season 7, right? She's not as overpowered as she once was, but it is a little bit better. It is a little bit better, and I'd say, like, it's a nice compromise, because it was way too overpowered, right? You're now going to be able to kind of pop a bat up there, kind of shoot people down without being too much of a target, which is nice. You know, it's a nice change. So that's a good tactical ability. Horizon's passive is that she can fall from like large heights, right? And she doesn't get stunned. Every other legend will get stunned, which means you can't go into a slide. You kind of like have to take a moment to get your momentum back. For Horizon, you don't have that problem. So you can take that momentum from that massive jump into a slide and continue moving with no problem, which is quite unique. And another thing is Horizon actually has increased air strafing, which is super good for like mastering high level movement. I wouldn't say it's necessarily important, like because of tap strafing being a thing, you can get really good at movement without this, but this is like a nice stepping stone for players that struggle with tap strafing. Like I'm not very good at tap strafing, but it's nice to have increased air control so that for me it's a little bit easier to do, right? I can, you know, practice this with Horizon, go get good at it in game. I can practice wall jumps. I can hit wall jumps easier and have better strafing off of a wall jump. You know, it's really quite an effective way to learn how to move, but not necessarily is it needed to be like expert at movement. I would probably say that just a stim on Octane is just as good as Horizon's air strafing, but it's quite a nice little feature that I would say is a great opportunity for beginner movement players to learn the movement of Apex, the kind of advanced movement, air strafing, tap strafing, wall jumping, bunny hopping. All of that stuff is easier on Horizon. Now, Horizon's ultimate is really kind of like one of her most powerful parts of her kit. She throws a black hole, which sucks players in that get caught into it nearby. It doesn't work on the dummies. So you can throw that down and then throw a bunch of nades and just secure some kills. Like, it's a very, very effective third-party tool that's going to allow you to just secure a ton of kills in game. It's going to work really well in ranked. It's going to work really well for you to like say, hey, look, there's a fight over there. Let's get ready. Let's throw my ult down. Let's put my gravity lift up. Throw a bunch of grenades on my ult. And then just drop on top of people and finish them off. Like, it's such a powerful ability. And I think that is kind of what propels her into A tier for me, because her grav lift, like, whilst it's nice to be able to get a little bit of lift up in the air, like you can reposition a little bit with your team, mostly there are better movement abilities for that, and mostly I would say that, you know, it's the ultimate combined with the other abilities that kind of put her in A tier. Next we have Bloodhound in A+ tier. Bloodhound was like an almost necessary choice in the high level ranked up until Seer was released, and that's why for me Bloodhound isn't S tier anymore, because at the end of the day S tier should be reserved for like the best legends in that set of like class. So, you know, you have recon, you have movement, you have sort of like defensive legends, whatnot. Bloodhound is A+. Bloodhound is still a very good legend. Their tactical allows you to scan a pretty large area and see the location of enemies just for a couple seconds. I believe it's for 2 to 3 seconds. I'm not sure exactly what the time is. They keep changing it. And it's got quite a long cooldown. Now, because Seer literally has wall hacks 24/7, it's kind of like, it doesn't feel as powerful anymore. Sure, yeah, you can like quickly do this without having to tell your team where players are, but if you're in like a pre-made squad, right, I just have to wait another 20 seconds to be able to do that again and tell my team where players are. Whereas with Seer, I can just ADS and be like, there's a player in this building, there's a player in this building, there's a player in this building, and do that 24/7. So Seer's definitely knocked Bloodhound off the recon throne without a doubt. Bloodhound's Bloodhound's passive is kind of a bit weird. Like, sometimes there's clues on the ground that you can use to follow player locations, and in some cases, you are going to be able to use that to, like, find where a player has gone once they've taken damage and they're trying to heal up, or they jump over a wall. All of these tracks will be left on the ground, and if you use your tactical, they'll be revealed through walls and at a longer distance, I believe. But once again, why would you even need those abilities when you have Seer, who can just look through a wall and know, oh, look, there's the player I've been chasing. They're there. I don't need to look at stupid clues on the ground. Once again, Seer just negates Bloodhound and pushes Bloodhound down. You know, if Seer wasn't a thing, Bloodhound would still be S tier, because Bloodhound has some really powerful recon abilities that are going to help your team know exactly where everybody is. But Seer just does it so much better. So much better. So that's why Bloodhound is A+. One more feature of Bloodhound. Obviously, Bloodhound is a recon legend, so they have access to the survey beacons, which can reveal the location of the next rings. And Bloodhound has a pretty unique ultimate. Bloodhound can move faster for 30 seconds, and all players in their line of sight are highlighted red. And when you scan, the cooldown on the tactical is reduced to 8 seconds. So you can get a bunch of scans off. And on top of that, if you kill a player, or knock, I think it's kill. I don't think it's knock necessarily, I'm not too sure. Anyway, either eliminate or knock a player, you'll get an increased duration of ultimate. You'll get extra time on your ultimate. So it can kind of be extended for a long time. So you can get kind of pop off of this, have some crazy moments of it. It's a very fun ultimate ability. It's allowing you to like reposition and escape if you need to, hunt down players, provide quick information to your team. Late game, a Bloodhound ultimate is going to be really, really valuable. Once again, not as useful as Seer's passive. Like, you see the problem here. Seer's passive basically does everything Bloodhound does, besides the extra movement, right? So, yeah, Bloodhound, A+. Wraith is A+, in my opinion. Wraith is one of the most popular legends in the game, but she's been nerfed so much, so she's no longer S tier. Her ultimate was one of the best repositioning tools in the game. You could put down a tunnel. I'll explain how it works if you don't know. I'm sure you know Wraith, most of you, if there are any new players watching right now. If you are new, leave a comment, let me know. You have a tunnel that you kind of combine with 2 portals. So when you press your ultimate once, it will create the entrance, and then you can move like a short distance, and it allows you to travel between those 2 portals freely as much as you want. And when you're in these portals, you're invincible, which is kind of like a unique feature. You're literally invincible. So, still to this day, even though the length of this thing has been nerfed massively, and the duration that it stays up has been nerfed massively, and you can no longer create portals in the ring very effectively because they get destroyed so quickly, it still is one of the best repositioning tools in the game because that unique feature of the fact that you can travel somewhere and your entire team is invincible. So let's say the ring's coming in, right? And your team is here, stuck behind a rock. You can combine your ultimate with Wraith's phase and stay invincible, go over here and create a free escape and rotation for your team to get from point A to point B very, very safely. That's why to me she's A+. Like, that ability in itself is absolutely amazing despite all the nerfs, because it's very unique in the way that you're invincible when you're going through the portal. And obviously there's tons of different things you can do with it. You can sort of like catch players in it, you know, capture players. You can do all sorts of fun things with the portal, but the core mechanic of repositioning whilst invulnerable is really good. Wraith's tactical as well. It lets you basically, there'll be a trail when you move around, but when you're in this sort of space, you're once again invincible. So every other legend has a movement ability that allows them to escape a situation, but you can hunt them down, you can shoot them whilst they're using that movement ability. In Wraith's case, you can't. There is literally no way to get Wraith out of her void. Even Seer's tactical will not interrupt Wraith and send her out of the void. She is 100% safe in that ability, making it one of the best movement abilities in the game, even if you can't move that fast. Like, you move a little bit faster, takes a little while to activate too now these days, and you don't get that much distance on it. But still, the fact that you're invulnerable makes it one of the best movement abilities and perhaps one of the best tacticals in the game. Now, we're going to be talking about Octane, who I think is S tier just because of how the meta is right now. Octane is a very aggressive, selfish legend that used to be kind of bad in a lot of people's eyes, but they changed his jump pad, right? Octane's ultimate allows you to throw down a jump pad that anybody can jump on, right? And you can go very far pretty quickly. So you're going to be able to reposition very fast. You're going to be able to get from point A to point B pretty quickly. And yes, you're in the air. You're going to be pretty vulnerable, but not as vulnerable as if you were on a zip line. Like, obviously, using the zip line, you're vulnerable, very vulnerable. But when you use the jump pad, you go further and faster. And, you know, if you're good at tap strafing and all that, you can basically just turn your direction in any direction. Most high-level players at this point are tap strafing, so it's just ridiculous, right? I can't really tap strafe very well, but you get the point. So yeah, pretty powerful ability. This here, combined with Revenant's totem, is literally the meta. For too long it's been the meta. And that's kind of why Octane's S tier. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Let's talk about his other abilities quickly, though. Octane has a stim, which deals 20 health to him, but he goes faster. He can actually, he can move. He's the fastest legend. Like, Bloodhound has faster movement in their ult. Wraith has faster movement with her tactical, Bangalore with her passive, but the actual sprinting speed, 40% increased sprinting speed, is the fastest movement ability on the ground in the game, right? So the fastest sprinting ability. So that's kind of neat. So you're going to be able to get out of some pretty crazy situations. And, you know, if you're kind of good with movement in this game, you can stim and heal a syringe at the same time whilst bunny hopping. Let me show you, right? Like, it's no problem. We can do that. We can do that, right? So that's a pretty neat feature. The strafing speed, though, is just 30%. So it's like every other legend. Otherwise, it would just be too ridiculous. But, you know, in some cases, the 20 health damage done to you is worth it, because the extra speed is going to allow you to stay mobile and potentially dodge more bullets than 20 health worth, right? So that's pretty neat. And Octane's passive is that he regains health slowly over time, which is quite a neat feature. You're not going to need as many medkits and syringes, and ultimately, it saves time with healing. And obviously it's kind of there to sort of balance the fact that he takes so much health from his tactical. But either way, Octane is S tier almost entirely because of the whole jump pad repositioning meta, the Revtane meta. Do you disagree? Let me know. Where would you rank Octane? I don't know. I'm curious. Next, we have Seer. Seer is an S tier. Now, when I kind of talk about legends after they release, I'm very hesitant to overrate legends because I know that there's always hype about a legend. Everyone's playing this legend. The pick rate's really high. So we kind of think a little bit too much about whether they're good or not. But there's only been 2 times I've given an S tier to a legend straight out of the gate. That time, the first time was Horizon. The second time is Seer. And I wholeheartedly think that Seer is far more overpowered than Horizon was. Seer, like, let's talk about his abilities in a second, right? His tactical and ultimate are actually pretty good recon abilities, and I think that they can be balanced well. They're not necessarily that overpowered, but Seer's passive is a problem. Seer's passive, combined with his tactical, right? You can run around at pretty much full movement speed. I think it's slightly reduced when you have this out. I'm not 100% sure. I think it's 160 velocity instead of 199. But either way, you can just look around you and you'll know where everyone is at all times. That completely changes the game. It doesn't just give you some kind of benefit. It completely changes the game. Never in the history of Apex have you ever had to worry about another player knowing your exact location, because in the case of Bloodhound, Crypto, as soon as you get scanned, you know you've been scanned. In this case, you can run around freely. You won't even know if there's a Seer looking at you until it's too late. That's a big problem, and it needs to be changed, in my opinion. But besides that, Seer also has a really good ultimate ability that I think is a really cool idea. If people shoot or move in this area, they are going to be detected and their location is going to be picked up in this radius, right? This is good for 2 reasons. We can throw this down as we're pushing into a fight to kind of know where people are as we sort of like become the third party. And it's also a really good tool to stop third parties. Let's say we've just finished a fight. We need to heal up. We need to res. We can put this on the ground. And at the bottom of the screen, we're going to know instantly if players enter our radius. It's such a cool ability. I really like it. It doesn't really need to be changed in any way. And that in itself is really, really neat. Seer's tactical is also pretty cool. Obviously, combined with his passive, it's pretty easy at this point to hit a player through a wall up to 75 meters. You're going to do 10 damage. You're going to flashbang them. That feature's going to go soon, I'm pretty sure. But you're going to also reveal their health. You're going to know if it's worth pushing that player or not. And you're going to reveal their location for 8 seconds, which is way too long, right? Way too long. And what is the cooldown of this ability? 30 seconds, right? Whereas Bloodhounds, which, you know, sure, it's a little easier to use, but it's 25 seconds. So basically, Seer's passive does what Bloodhound scan does 24/7, and then you have the tactical on top. And then the ultimate. He's the ultimate recon legend that provides so much information to the point where it just changes the game. Is that a bad thing? I don't know. You know, change is good, but I think that it's too much. I think that his passive should change. But besides that, really good, fun legend that's going to be probably fundamental for high-level play for a long time. Next, we have Gibraltar. Gibraltar, to me, is still S tier. Gibraltar's dome is like a super important ability to get quick reses off. When you're under the dome and you're playing as Gibraltar, you can revive people slightly faster, which is a cool little feature. And most importantly, people can't shoot through this. They can't throw grenades in it. The only way you can destroy a Gibby dome is with a crypto ult. The other option is you could use a Seer tactical to stop a Gibby res, and I know that that's happening a lot now, but I do think that that interrupt feature is probably going to go. But even if we're talking about the current meta, the ability to quickly revive a player under the protection of the dome is super, super useful. Now, that's not the only feature that the dome gives you, right? The dome is also a super useful repositioning tool. Let's say there's a bunch of people looking our way, right? And we need to get from point A to point B. As long as we keep this dome, in between the line of sight of enemies and us, we're safe, right? So we can throw it in between us and them and use it to reposition and then quickly get into the cover that we need to get into. It's a super good repositioning tool, especially on like a map like Olympus where there's a lot of open areas. Really, really good repositioning tool. On top of that, you can throw down your dome and like play in and out of it. Like if you're a good Gibby player, you're going to win a lot of fights just doing this, right? It's kind of crazy. Gibby's ultimate throws down a bunch of missiles in a small area. The difference between Gibby's and Bangalore's is Gibby's is definitely designed to deal damage, right? You can throw it down and do a lot of damage and definitely secure some kills in some moments. It does the same damage per missile, but there's more missiles that fire quicker in a shorter period of time. It's going to allow you to secure some kills at some point, or at least, you know, stop some pushes. Like, I feel like a Gibby ult, even though it's quite short, can sometimes stop pushes more effectively than a Bangalore ult can. Gibby also has a really cool feature. It's been nerfed a bit. Gibby's passive allows you to ADS, and a gun shield will appear, and it blocks up to 50 damage. Now, if someone shoots with a Kraber, only 50 of that damage will be blocked, and the rest will hit Gibby now. But it's still like a nice feature to allow you to just get free peeks, right? We can peek across the map, use a sniper, a scout, whatever, bam, 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 bam. Or we can have a mastiff and just keep peeking corners, bang, bang, bang. Every time we peek them, maybe we're doing 100 damage. They're doing nothing because the shield keeps recharging every time, right? If we're smart with how we use it, we're going to just constantly get free peeks, level up our armor for our team maybe, whilst they just are doing nothing to us. Gibby is also a big boy, so he has 15% damage reduction, but it's not such an issue as it is with Caustic, because he can just do this, and his actual like visible hitbox is really small because of the gun shield blocking it. So that's it. That is my tier list. I hope this was useful. Let me know what you think, and I'll see you all in the comments. Cheerio!